It is a common belief that we live in a post-truth world. After the relativism that has been established by postmodernists, it was expected that the narrative one adopts will be as relative as the rest of them. Since truth is a construct based on social relations, philosophy's duty is to deconstruct these relations, revealing that the truth is nothing more than a narrative imposed by those who have power in society or over society, and those who want to take that power for themselves, imposing in turn their own narrative. Taking this to the extreme, the post-truth becomes clearer. In every post-truth narrative, fake news, flat earth, etc., there is always a great power imposing its narrative as truth. In opposition to this, smaller fractions arise, offering a different narrative with a whole new set of arguments and evidence in their defense and in their critique of the established opinions. What many see as a danger to this post-truth narrative is that these fractions have a little regard for measurements, experiments, statistics, facts, and proofs that traditionally have guaranteed the validity of any statement that had any claim on truth. Facts don't hold any gravitas anymore, and considering the rise of social media, we see that a significant portion of people who choose their truth narrative is based on their preconceptions, biases, beliefs, and emotions rather than rational thinking and fact-checking. Many conclude that because this post-truth has little regard for facts and proofs, in a view that is rooted in Enlightenment ideals, because truth is what grants us liberty, post-truth is a danger to freedom. In his description of Socrates, Nietzsche asserts that the Greek philosopher was under the influence of what Nietzsche calls a passion for truth, or even better, that Socrates experienced truth as a passion. This passion for truth is, in my opinion, a key element in order to understand the post-truth character of our times. Nietzsche argues that Socrates was obsessed by truth. His questions aimed at what is truth or what is the essence of things. These questions set the truth as a moral standard or a moral imperative, in a sense that the truth is essentially good and must be pursued at all times. Whether we perceive truth as a knowledge of the ideas in Plato, or as an advagio rei in dialecto in Aristotle, or as the simple correspondence of assertions in reality, this truth is something good, something that holds value, and we are obliged to follow. All that is not focused to this maxim, art for example, should be exiled because it leads us astray from truth, which is the ultimate goal of philosophy. This idea that all that we think and assert must always have a certain correspondence in the real world in order to have some meaning and value is the essence of scientific knowledge. It is self-evident that a scientific theory must correspond to the phenomenon it examines, and to the experiments and the measurements that are conducted by the scientists. In other words, in science, but also in our ordinary lives, we act under this will for truth. We want our ideas, our beliefs, and our opinions to be true, to have some validity, some verification, if we want them to have any value at all. Ultimately, truth is the element that gives value to anything. One should expect that in this post-truth world we experience, we will be free from this passion for truth. Since we believe that post-truth has no regard for truth or for facts, one should be free to lie without taking verification or fact-checking into consideration. But this is not the case. Even in the most extreme post-truth cases, we observe the need for justification is equally present, if not more prominent than usual. In the effort to convince people of its truth, the post-truth also relies on arguments, evidence, and logical conclusions to prove its theories. Its seductive and emotional narrative cannot be grounded as such, even if it achieves the impact of these theories in society. It is important to acknowledge that post-truth does not present itself as post-truth, but as the real truth, because this tendency shows that post-truth adopts the same principles and goals as science, even if their assertions and beliefs oppose one another. In short, in a post-truth world, truth is still the ultimate value. Every assertion, every opinion, every belief must have some claim to truth in order to convince us and makes us invest our time in it. Every conspiracy theory does not present itself as something post-truth, but rather as something that has claim to truth, as opposed to the mainstream. They don't hold in high esteem notions like scientific research or validation or fact-checking, but they are driven by the same will to truth. No conspiracy theorist or anyone will admit that he is lying or that he is wrong, but he will argue that he is entitled to the truth, a truth that the rest of us won't accept. We can say that he is misguided or mistaken, that he has a distorted image of the world, and how we can achieve it. But we can categorize them as post-truth, because while they may deny the content of established knowledge as truth, they accept truth as the supreme value. In all cases, it seems that the post-truth world does not pose a threat to our freedom, but to science. The quarrel, for example, between creationists and evolutionists does not harm our freedom, but the scientific research that considers evolution as truth. In the end, as Wittgenstein puts it, our theories are just houses of cards that, even if they are destroyed, the world remains as it is. Theories are revised and reconsidered as the new data are collected. Post-truth may question, even challenge established truths, but since truth is the correspondence of an assertion and reality, its reality will provide the criterion to all claims of truth. Optimistic as that may be, post-truth may be still a danger to human freedom, not because it differs from science, but because it is very similar to it in its values and goals. Freedom is usually associated with choice and decision-making, especially in existential philosophers like Jasper. It is not just the absence of obstacles in our actions, but an inner characteristic of human existence that allows it to create itself and to achieve its essence. In existential principle, that existence precedes essence, man is free to make decisions, to choose for him, and through time, these decisions and actions begin to shape our character and reveal who we are. Our self is the sole foundation upon which our choices are made, and thus we remain responsible for the choices we make. On the opposite, truth is the element that gives or leaves no choice to the agent. Since we conceive as correspondence between an assertion and reality, truth is something exterior, something beyond our control. We do not get to choose what truth is and what is not. We cannot choose if the earth is round or flat. Earth is as it is, and our only option is to discover what theories apply and what not. Truth compels us to accept it, whether we choose it or not. And even if we hold true, now maybe it falls later, that would occur only because another truth will take its place. One would argue that scientific theories may compel us to adopt their views as truth, but have little impact over our lives. Actually, we struggle to understand some of them, since they challenge logic, common sense, and intuition. We may take pleasure from the commodities of the advanced science and technology, but we question the principle of theories applied beneath them. But there are also other implications. Love, an emotion, an idea, a value that Christianity and Western culture is based upon, is regarded by neuroscientists as a chemical reaction of hormones. Philosophy, since Nietzsche and Wittgenstein, has exiled metaphysical notions, like God and afterlife, to silence. Happiness is just a state of our brain and can be caused willingly by medicine or drug use. Morality is reduced to a relativistic social construct. We treat melancholy and depression not as something spiritual, but the same way we treat a simple cold. Sociology demonstrates us that the impact that society has on our mentality, and if we still operate under the illusion that we act consciously, rationally, freely, and responsibly, psychology argues that much of our actions and choices derive from our subconscious without us even noticing. In conclusion, it is the duty of science to clarify the cause and effects of phenomena, which lead us to a certain determinism, in a sense that every time that we discover the cause, we are bereft of our choice over it, because truth compels us to accept it as it is. What is the meaning of value, of love, if truth about love is a chemical reaction based on some psychological factors? What is the point to admire literary works that were created in great melancholy if melancholy can be cured by a single pill? What is the meaning of God or faith if we can't even speak about metaphysics, if we can't verify the truth of a religion? Post-truth can offer no answer to this question because it aims for truth also, and basically tries to deny some scientific facts. It poses the same danger to our freedom as science by changing the content of what truth is, but accepting the same form and values of science. Karl Jaspers, a German existential philosopher, tackled this issue in two instances, one regarding science and one considering the issue in philosophy. And he writes, and I quote, "The appearance that exists for science, the appearance we call reality, is not the reality we are. We have in our minds a technical intellect of extraordinary capacity regarding all phenomena that are accessible to research in any definable area of research. This includes the biological and psychological phenomena of our existence. Yet, there is more to us than this cognition, this know-how, this productivity, and there is more to phenomenality than the phenomena that can be manipulated in a technical sense. However, since our modern public and common intellect seems to be all but hermetically sealed against the reality of existence and transcendence, since its exclusive pursuit enslaves us to the things we can explore, it can never take us to the things we discuss in philosophy." Furthermore, in defense to this position, he argues about positives. Philosophy has divorced from its origin and has no longer any responsibility for the real life. It rendered possible as the doctrine of a secondary phenomenon. It tried to justify itself against the science, says, whose superiority actually recognized, but giving itself out to be pure science, and in the belief that under the name of epistemology, it would establish the validity and the significance of sciences as well as its own. Outwardly learned, inwardly relationistic, devoid of any relationship with the life of the individual, it still takes to its tradition of strictly logical thought. It was able to carry out the serviceable enterprise of philosophy schools, which, despite the violent polemical atmosphere of literature, they were all fundamentally identical, although they bore various names such as idealism, positivism, neo-Kantianism, etc. The most characteristic symptom of this philosophical weakness of these multifariously named philosophical schools is that most of their exponents knew nothing of Kierkegaard, that they did not accept Nietzsche as a philosopher, but accepted him as an imaginative writer, a poet, and thus drew his teeth and cut his claws, that they made light of Nietzsche as unscientific, as one of the crazes of the moment, as an incapable. They watered down the radical problem of philosophy until it could no longer be dangerous. To summarize the two passages in one phrase, there is more to what we call human existence than what is truth and what is real. Science and post-truth conceptions can only go as far as what is truth and what is false. They are devoted to this will of truth, as Nietzsche says, to this claim that they have the truth and they are correct. But there is a whole area of possibilities that the human spirit can experience that goes beyond the boundaries of verification and falsification. In this openness and in these possibilities, we achieve our authentic selves. We transcend truth and experience our freedom. According to Jaspers, the medium that the human spirit uses to communicate with this transcendental level is of consciousness is what he calls ciphers. Ciphers are not definitive knowledge. They cannot be proven true or false. Their jurisdiction goes beyond the laws of human understanding and can never be fully apprehended by them. We can never understand them fully. This is why they remain open to interpretation, much as like a suspicion, where the human spirit acknowledges that something occurs in this instance, but is not able to fully grasp it. Jasper describes ciphers as the light that illuminates the roots of all things. They are not cognition. What is conceived in them is vision and interpretation. They cannot be experienced and verified as generally valid. Their truth is linked with existence. Their magnetism of transcendence for existence is voiced in ciphers. They open areas of being. They illuminate my decisions. They enhance or deepen my awareness of being and of myself. While science and post-truth present themselves as absolute truth in our relationship to the transcendence, ciphers contain a certain openness that is necessary for the human freedom to take place. They bear meaning for human existence, even if they cannot be verified or falsified. Through them, we discover our authenticity. For neuroscience, the sense we have about ourselves is what we call subjectivity. Maybe still be a problematic mystery, but it's regarded as a problem of the anatomy and function of the brain. It is true that the sensation of self is rooted in the brain and in its chemistry, but Jasper suggests that we could also ponder on it as this, and I quote, "What am I myself am, therefore, always remains a question, and yet is the certainty that supports and fulfills everything else. My authentic self can never become my possession. It remains my potentiality. If I knew it, I would no longer be it, since I become inwardly aware of myself in temporal existence only as a task. The truth of existence can therefore rest simply and unconditionally on itself, without wanting to know itself. In the most powerful existence, one feels this parsimony and resignation that attains no image, no visible representation of its own nature. The same openness applies in the plans that we are making in our everyday life, designing our future. In dealing with myself in my situation, the generality of intelligent planning is indispensable if I want to find and to fulfill my way in life. But my historic self remains unreal until I listen to whatever pertains me, to chance disclosures and opportunities of obstacles presented by new situations. No telling what may come is both a disquieting and a confident thought. No accident is merely accidental. It may be an accident for our knowledge, but not for the consciousness of our own singular historicity, which no planning can fully anticipate. Only our own immersion in reality unveils it." I pass some of the pages, so let me just finish. Post-truth poses us an answer to a question it does not even understand. The goal is not to deny scientific facts, to argue that the earth is a movable fact. The goal is to dare to go where even post-truth cannot go, the realm of the transcendence, and provide some insight to the reality we are in, not as an irrefutable truth, but as a suspicion. We even labor. The overall picture leaves us with the impression that the spirit itself has been sucked out into a technological process that even subordinates sciences to itself. This explains the astonishing stupidity of so many scientists outside their own special field. It explains the intellectual helplessness of so many technicians outside the tasks which, through they are for them the ultimate ones, are in themselves not so at all. It explains the secret lack of happiness in this world that is becoming even more inhuman. The task of philosophy today is this, not to argue against post-truth theories, but to explore the devious area that expands beyond our knowledge and understanding, to speak in ciphers, leaving us suspended, open and free in this task, to remind us that man is always something more than he appears to be in scientific research, to remind us that the quest for truth and knowledge is a noble quest, but truth is not the only value in the world, and man can transcend it without denying it. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you very much, Andreas Antoniou. It's time for Professor Michael.
Yes, first of all, I want to congratulate you. It was a pleasure to listen to your carefully constructed paper. So philosophy is not dead after all. Do you agree?
Yeah, actually, I thought even Wittgenstein stated that had second thoughts later
Right.
in his life.
Right. No, I think the views of Jasper's that you brought up, I think can be quite useful. There are layers of complexity. Obviously, we should not settle for the scientific reductionism that is sometimes imposed upon us. but these attempts are becoming omnipresent almost. I feel it at the university also in Slovakia, where the natural scientists believe that we, scholars from the fields of humanities are not necessary. We're just sort of, talking about stories and wishful thinkings and blah blah blah. It's not scientific. It's disconnected from real life and so on. So I'm not sure if this is the same in Greece.
No, it's actually the very same in Greece.
Very same. Okay.
I could argue it's even worse.
Okay. The task of philosophy then. So if philosophy is not that, and we should not settle for reductionism, and you only spent one or two sentences really on this the task of philosophy. Could you elaborate a bit more on this? Because I think there is maybe some. I find it very valuable to focus on this. What is really the task of philosophy in this age?
A Greek philosopher, a modern Greek philosopher, Panagiotis Kanellopoulos, my PhD thesis was on him, said that the problem with philosophy started at the 17th century, because it's the key point where philosophy tried to justify itself as a science, that philosophy could provide answers for problems or questions that were posed to him. We can see today, if ever, if a person from especially physical sciences asks a philosopher, so what is the meaning of life? That person expects from us an answer. And that is a problem, because philosophy is not here to answer questions, it's here to offer intuitions, to ponder in problems or in questions or in ciphers, but not to provide an answer as a physicist or a chemical scientist or a biologist. Is here to answer questions, to say, this is it, this is a fact, I've conducted an experiment, and here is my results. We do not do that in philosophy. We can only think of questions like God, the meaning of life, afterlife, or what is love, what is myself, everything, but not to provide a single truth. No, we're not here to provide truth, we're here to provide intuition, cipher, and to re-examine again and again all those questions and provide even more intuition. That is the task of philosophy. This is the task that in our society, even if it's in enlightenment ideals of truth and knowledge or post-truth, cannot truly grasp it, why this has value. Why we understand why answering a question with truth has value. It's truth. It has value. Always has value. But people don't understand why not offering a standard absolute truth could also have value. And this is what we are here to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who have a question for me? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.